You don't want to be relating to this book. I'll be back in a minute. So there's my list of options. My cozy reading weekend has already been delayed. No! No! All I can say is the middle class live very, very differently. So this weekend I am hosting a 24-hour readathon over on Patreon. I do them bi-monthly for all tiers, and every 24-hour readathon has a prompt that is generated by one of the Bookathon boards. So the prompt for this month I'm very excited about because it is chance. And if you guys aren't familiar with Bookopoly, the chance cards are a stack of cards that each has the name of a book on them, and you draw them randomly, and that is the book that you like have to read. Normally when we do like the Bookathon, I recommend not making a full deck because it isn't necessary for the length of time, especially for 24 hours. But I'm really going to be leaning into the chance element of it, and I'm going to build a list of 12 books that are maybes for this 24-hour readathon, which is just giving me something to draw from. I will probably read a maximum of 2, but knowing my reading speed, it's probably just going to be 1. But part of the fun of chance is that if you choose to do it like this, you don't have to do it like this. This is the way I do it, where you put together like an even amount of books that you really want to read and an even amount of books that you're not as interested in reading. And it doesn't mean that you have to actively not want to read them. In this instance, it might just be that like they're not perfectly suited for a 24-hour readathon. But it is Thursday today, so I have a couple of days until the readathon starts, but I am going to be out all day tomorrow, and I want to make a Patreon post with all of the books that are going to be the stack that I'm pulling from. So I thought I would get this vlog started today so we can pick those books together. So because I'm doing 12, I want to break it down into 4 sections of 3, so each section of 3 will be a theme. The first section is an easy one because that is going to be my current reads. This is going to be like a nice 3 for me to pick from because obviously I'm already part way in. I will just be finishing the book in the 24 hours. So my main current read at the minute is The Battle Drum by Sarah El-Arifi, which is the sequel to The Final Strive. I'm buddy reading this with Aaron, so if I pull this one, I will just be doing like my buddy read sections for the day within the 24 hours instead of like trying to squeeze them in like before the readathon starts on Saturday and after on Sunday. One of my other current reads is an audiobook that I've been listening to while I've been walking Brie, and that is I'm Glad My Mum Died by, is it Jeanette McCurdy? I did just start listening to this one because everybody has raved about it so much. I don't have the context of like watching iCarly or anything, so I didn't know who she was before this book was published, but as somebody who has grown up in a toxic environment for parts of my life at least, I relate to a lot of it, which isn't what you want. You don't want to be relating to this book, but it has been a good time, a terrible time, but like interesting so far. And I think I have on 1.5 speed, I have like 2 hours of that audio left. The other one I've got you on my big tripod, which isn't ideal for carrying you around, but my other current read is up here. And that one is Gwen and I Are Not in Love by Lex Croucher, which I feel like is taking me forever to read because I do just keep dipping in and out of it. So it would be nice if this came up for it to be like a consistent reading experience where I actually finish this book, and I think I still have 230-ish pages left. But this, when I do read it, it's real fast. It's not a difficult read at all. I need to start getting a stack together. The next section is going to be the 3 books that are the biggest priorities on my June TBR. So books that I should have read yet and I haven't started them. None of these lend themselves very well to being read in 24 hours, so I guess these would make them bad picks, although it's still advantageous if they come up because I do need to read them very soon ideally. So the first one is my Patreon pick for April, which is A Discovery of Witches by Deborah Harkness. I think this one was Bex's pick, and this one is probably the one at this point that I least want to come up because I will struggle to read this in 24 hours. I will have to have my pedal to the metal to get through this, although I thought it was 800 pages and it's only like 700, so at least there's that. The next priority I guess would be Blood Sanctuary Part 1 by Vila Roth. This is my current Patreon book club pick for the month of June. This one is going to be very slow because all of the other books in the series have been very slow, but it is shorter than A Discovery of Witches at 440 pages. So I feel like if I really put my mind to it, I could do this one. And then the other one, I have no idea what the writing style is going to be like, but this is my Patreon pick for me. It's Brandy's pick, and that is The Demon King by Cinda Williams-Chimer, which is a YA high fantasy book. It's the first book in the Seven Realms trilogy, and I'm really excited to get to this one. Because it's YA, I feel like I maybe could do it, but it's 500 pages, so it's definitely not short. So yeah, I feel like these are definitely ones that I would struggle to get through, but it's still not necessarily a bad thing if they come up, because I still got to read them. So on the flip side of that, I think the next section should be graphic novels. Maybe, because I'll definitely get through one of those, and that would also allow me to read multiple books, because I'd read like one graphic and then maybe move into something that's actually full length. So based on that, let's see what we've got. Up on my manga shelf is I Had That Same Dream. Oh, that's the door. I'll be back in a minute. That is the 4th time that the doorbell has rang today. I swear I have never been so popular. So we have I Had That Same Dream Again by Yoru Sumino, who is also the author of I Want to Eat Your Pancreas, which is a manga that I really enjoyed. This one has a very vague synopsis, and it is about a girl who is looking for happiness, who is getting to know 3 different people and trying to like kind of understand what it means to be happy based on these people that she's getting to know. That's all I know about it. I picked it up because I really liked I Want to Eat Your Pancreas. If we shuffle into the stack of books over here that I got for, well, they're not all birthday books. This is just all of the books that I have hauled in the last like 2 months that I still have not put into my spreadsheet. I know in here we have Dreaming Sun Volume 5 by Ichigo Takano, which is Volume 5, obviously, in a contemporary series that's kind of like the best way I could describe it in one line is like it's a young adult version of New Girl. This is like super fun, super feel good, and always kind of just like perks me up a little bit and puts me in a good mood. Then lastly for these, I feel like we should go for one of the Buffy volumes, but I don't remember where I'm up to, so I'm gonna have to look that up. So the last one that I think I read was Volume 2 of Angel, which is City of Demons, which means that the next one is not that, because that is Willow. Is it this one? Yes, the Hellmouth event. So this one is a crossover event in the Buffyverse between the like Buffy and the Angel comic series. I'm sure y'all know what Buffy, if you're on this channel, I'm sure y'all know what Buffy is at this point, but this one is a comic reboot that's brought like the 90s TV show into 2019 and like modernized all of like the fashion technology and all of that good stuff. So there we have the 3 graphic options. Now, I don't know what the last section should be. I wanted to go with mood reads, but thinking about it, I really need to make any progress on the list of authors that I need to read from that are attending Rare, which is in just like a couple of weeks at this point. And I think apart from ones that I'd already read of the list that I made of ones that I wanted to read, I've only read 1. So I feel like I should do something about that. So an easy one, because this would be a mood read and one of those authors, would be Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros, which is a adult fantasy romance about dragon riders. I think that's all I know. You know more than me. Everyone knows about this book. So we'll stick this one on. I've heard that this is a pretty quick read and it's like compelling, so I feel like that would be all right for 24 hours. And if we're gonna go with rare authors, I think we need to go upstairs. So here are the romance shelves. I also have an overspill stack here, which I don't really want to talk about. So an easy one, and I feel like an obvious one that I need to read, is Twisted Love by Anna Huang. I don't know anything about this, but Ashley read it recently and said that it has those like angsty, addictive Colleen Hoover vibes, which I'm always down for. I also have this one, which I can't get out, which is Song of the Forever Rains by E.J. Mello, but I don't know if that's going to be a little bit too dense, because I don't know anything really about the writing style of that one. So I had to check my TBR video because I was drawing a blank while I was looking at my shelves. I do have some here like this one, but I had this signed at the last Rare, so I don't need to read it to know whether I want to take it and have it signed because it's already been signed anyway. So the only one that leaves me that I haven't read that hasn't been signed and I own a physical copy of, which I feel should be my priority. I have tons of like KU books to read, but I feel like the physical should be my priority. So that means that the Song of the Forever Rains by EJ Mellows will be the one that is heading onto my TBR, or like not my TBR, my chance list of possibilities. And this one is a high fantasy romance, I believe. So there's my list of options, which I can't lie, it looks a little bit intimidating. Minus, of course, I'm glad my mom died because I just have an audiobook copy of that. My gut is telling me that the ones I don't want to come up are A Discovery of Witches because it's thick, and this one because I just don't feel like I'm really in the mood for it. Anything else I feel like I would be happy with. An ideal situation, I feel like the one that I want to come up the most is probably a current read, so like one of these two, because it would be great to knock them off my currently reading. So I am going to print a new page of chance cards either later today or Saturday morning, and just before the readathon starts on Saturday night I will actually pull one from the stack because I want it to be a surprise, because I feel like that level of spontaneity really adds to my enthusiasm and like motivation to read these days. So just before the readathon starts I'll pull from the stack and we'll find out which one of those 12 I'm actually going to be reading. I'm nervous but excited. Hopefully the odds are in my favor.
This is a harder hitting story from the way we're told in this novel. I expected it to be. And I've done, like I said, I liked the beginning. I wasn't just bored out of my mind through the middle of 5 out of 10, but it was not an easy.
Okay, so today is the day the readathon is actually starting in 3 minutes. My cozy reading weekend has already been delayed and I'm now down to the wire and I haven't picked what book I'm going to be reading. The derailment is that Brie has a couple of like raw patches on her paws. She's had a little bit of an allergic reaction. Everything's fine. I've been treating it. She's had an antihistamine, an anti-inflammatory and like a saltwater cleaning. And actually this is the second time I've tried to film this clip because I got a vet call back in the middle of the first take, as it's like out of hours now, because I just wanted to check that I was doing everything right and that they didn't need like additional bandaging or anything. So the good news is that I am doing everything right. The bad news is that I have medical anxiety, and when my pets are not well, I am not mentally well. So I'm trying to regain some calm and bring it back for the productive cozy reading weekend that I wanted. But we need to pick my book. So these have been shuffled 6 times now, I think, just to make sure that they're good and shuffled. And I've done 2 test pulls where I was just drawing off the top of the deck to see like what I might be reading. But now with 1 minute to go until I need to be starting sprints is the time to select what book I'm going to be reading today. And I'm so scared. But the book is going to be... What even does that say? Oh, it's one of the comics. This is the Buffy Angel Hellmouth special event thing. That's great because I'm going to have that done in like an hour, maybe the first sprint. And then we're going to have to draw again. Okay, I'll put my cards over there then because they will be coming up soon. But first up on our roster is the Buffy Angel Hellmouth event. So it is 8:30 and I have finished my first book, which I mean, we knew I was gonna. This one I did enjoy and I'm actually really happy about this because recently in the Buffy comics I haven't been enjoying the art. Like I really loved the art in the first volume. It was beautiful. It was illustrated by Dan Mora, 10 out of 10. And then in the following volumes I really didn't like the art. This one is illustrated by Eleonora Carlini and we're back on the up and up. I really liked, there's a page that has a lot of the main Buffy characters on it. It's like this one. Look at Cordelia. So it was really nice to see, like, to start enjoying the art again in here. That being said, I did give it a 3 because this is more of an action-based volume. It's Angel coming together with the majority of the Buffy characters to take down the current big bad. So it was very much focused on that and there wasn't a lot of like downtime or like character work, which I typically really enjoy. I still stand by Jordie Bellaire doing a really good job with the writing of this series in terms of bringing the voices of the characters to life. Like I can read this comic in the voices of the actors that played the original characters because the character representation in here is so well done. But just in terms of it being like a very action-based plot in this one, my feelings of it were very like so throughout. This one was a gift from Nina though, so thank you very much to Nina for gifting this one to me. And who knows what the next volume I have to read in this is. I'm really excited to get to the Willow volume actually. And the epilogue of this, I feel like soft launches a one-shot. I don't think it's the Willow one. I think it's is it Buffy 97 one? There is a one-shot in this series that is Buffy the Vampire Slayer if Willow was the Slayer instead of Buffy, which is what the epilogue of this kind of led into. I don't know why though. I don't know why it was the epilogue. So I'm interested to see kind of like the logic behind that. Although I hope that it isn't Buffy 97, because somebody has said like during this live stream that it's one of the worst books that they've read this year and was like a massive disappointment. So fingers crossed it's not that one, because I think the concept is like pretty solid as like a Buffy fan. It's an interesting concept. So I did pick another chance card because I have 13 minutes left of the current sprint. So I picked a chance card live, which I'm going to try and screen record the footage and insert it here. We're done. Okay. Oh, she made it to the top. Okay. But the book that I picked was I'm Glad My Mum Died by Jeanette McCurdy, which is one of the ones that I'm currently reading. I'm listening to the audio of this on Scribd. I'm on 1.5 speed, and that currently leaves me with 2 hours and 19 minutes left. Now, I have been listening to this when I've been doing other things, so there is a chance that I will be able to speed that up a little bit and it'll take me a little bit less time. But now I kind of like, I need to find something to do while I'm listening, because I am not somebody who can just like sit and listen or sit and watch something. I have to be doing something else at the same time. But I wasn't prepared. I didn't prepare an activity. I can knit. I can add the row for the Hellmouth to my blanket, but I don't know what to do after that. This was my camera refuses to accept that my face is a face, but it's nearly midnight and the unthinkable happened. Alright, let's do it this way. No! Discovery of Witches came out with a pile, which it's not that I don't want to read this in general, I just don't want to do it in a 24-hour readathon because I'm not finishing this, guys. I'm not. My hope right now is to get to halfway. I'm currently on page 14. So it's going to be a long road even to get to halfway, and this is 690 pages. But I mean, it's my next priority on my TBR. So like the next time I get around to actually going back to my TBR and selecting a book based on having to read it, A Discovery of Witches is it. So the benefit is that I'm getting a good head start on it now. We're making a dent in something that I actually have to read. But I did want something that I was going to finish in this vlog, and I just don't think that this is the book. I don't really know anything other than the bare bones synopsis of this at this point, and that is that it's about a woman who finds a manuscript in a library in Oxford which sucks her into a world of, is it demons, werewolves, witches, demons and vampires. And something that I didn't know that I've realized very early on is that she already knows that she's a witch. She comes from a family of witches, but I think because her parents have died, she's decided to like turn against magic and doesn't want anything to do with it. That's pretty much all I've gathered from the first 14 pages. The reason why I decided to select a new book to read is because I didn't really have anything to do while I was listening to my audiobook, whereas I know obviously I'm gonna wake up in the morning and I'm gonna feed Brian Hamilton, I'm gonna make myself coffee, I'm gonna potter around, get ready for the day, and I could listen to an audiobook while I'm doing that, but I can't listen to an audiobook while I'm doing that if I already finished the audiobook while I just sat and stared at a wall. So I decided it would be a good idea to have both for over the 24 hours. I have listened to just under an hour of I'm Glad My Mom Died though, and I have an hour and 23 minutes left at this point, still on 1.5 speed. I can't actually speed it up anymore, which is surprising because normally, like, to be fair, I do, if I'm just listening, I do tend to go for 1.5 speed. But if I'm reading along at the same time, I like 2.2, I feel, is my comfort speed. Why doesn't my camera think that I have a face? Literally right here. I can't even really give myself more light or anything. Like, there's a lamp right there. In terms of I'm Glad My Mom Died, am I enjoying it? It's hard to say. I don't have, like, there's tea in here about creators of TV shows that I never watched because I was never really like a Nickelodeon girly. And so I didn't watch iCarly. So Jeanette McCurdy as like an actress and someone in iCarly, I'm not getting that level of, not enjoyment, but like getting the tea on all of the kind of people involved in that kind of thing. Sorry, you're just wobbling all over the place. I'm doing my best considering it's almost midnight. Oh baby, what's wrong with your toe? Relax it, relax your feet. I need to put her to bed. Getting her to go out to pee was like enough of an ordeal, which really stressed me out. Luckily she doesn't have a lot of movement in her because she's just generally tired from being at the sitter all day. We got some sore tootsies. They'll get better though. I've been comparing pictures because that's what people with anxiety do. And to me, they're looking a little bit better. What's sticky here? You just got something stuck to your foot. Do I even want to know? Because you put no cut up here. That's just normal foot. I think they're looking like they're very slowly healing from like the outside in. Like, I mean, I know about wounds and stuff now because of Hamilton. When he had his surgery a couple of years ago and I was like applying honey to his asshole multiple times a day. I wish I could do that with her because it would help her heal so much faster, but she'll just lick it off obviously. But my book, and why are we focusing here but not when I'm like upright and fully lit? How do you know I'm a face here but not when I'm upright and fully lit? I'm glad my mum died. It's interesting. It's very raw though, and it's very graphic about every aspect of her life where I'm like, oh damn, like it's uncomfortable to listen to. And I have very, not mixed feelings, but as somebody who, I think I mentioned in this vlog, has had a toxic parental situation at various points in my life, I relate, not that you want to, but then putting myself in that position, I'm like, would I make a book where I expose all of that? Probably not. And if that's how you want to deal with that, then I don't have a problem with that. Like, I'm not saying that Jeanette McCurdy shouldn't be doing that. I'm just thinking, like, if this was me, would I lay all of this out on the table? And I don't think I could. So kudos to her, I guess, for like doing that. And if that's the way that she wants to process and deal with everything that's happened to her, then like good on her. It's very interesting, I feel, from a psychological aspect, and also just, you know, the human interest, like the reason why we listen, or I listen, a lot of people listen to true crime. It's not nice to listen to, but it's also kind of fascinating in a really dark way. That's what this audiobook feels like to me. So I have no idea how I'm going to rate it when I'm done, because you can't rate somebody's life story. I can't say like, I would have liked your life better if you'd have written it better. You know? Is it a 5-star? My gut tells me no, I wouldn't rate this 5 stars, but then I'm not going to rate anyone's life any less. Like, it's definitely not bad. I'm finding it very, very interesting. That was a really weird noise. It sounded like an electric saw just went on upstairs, which is really alarming. I think it was the hairdryer. But we both did a fear. So yeah, we'll see what my rating comes out as. I might just choose not to rate this one. But it's interesting. I think it's worth the read or like the listen. But would I say I'm enjoying it? Probably not. It's just not the right word. Baby, I'm trying to read that. I'm trying to read that. I'm now just about set up for sprints. We have a little bit of a different setup going today because I'm pretty sure that my plan for next week is to get a ton of editing done, so I'm pretty much going to be sat at my computer all day every day, and I want a little bit of a change from that. So we're down on the floor. I've read a little bit of A Discovery of Witches since last night. I'm just under page 100, although apparently I closed it, didn't put my bookmark in. I'm somewhere on like page 92 maybe, and I'm enjoying this. I do feel like it goes on a bit. Like the first 3 chapters of this is, or maybe even more than that, because I'm on like chapter 8 now. So the first, let's say 60 pages is just the main character Diana going to the library every day and being followed by magical creatures that are now drawn to her because she's found this manuscript which allegedly contains the reason why the magical beings exist, like where magic comes from, and they've kind of sensed it since she's been able to draw it out from the library, and so they're all hovering around her waiting for her to get this book out again, this manuscript out again, so that they can like steal it or convince her to give it to them. So I feel like that took up not necessarily more of this book than necessary, but it did feel a little bit tedious how it was just her going to the library every day and the same kind of thing happening. But during that, she's getting closer to this vampire who's one of the people who turned up because of this manuscript, called Matthew Claremont, who is also a renowned scientist, because everything in here is also a little bit pretentious. It's set at Oxford University. She's a historian, he's a scientist. And somebody in my sprints last night said that they devoured this because it reads very much like an adult Twilight. It really does. Like, this is very much reminding me of how through the middle portion of the first Twilight book is just Edward and Bella like going into the forest and going to his house and meeting his family. So I'm actually enjoying that about it. It is, if anything's putting me off it right now, it is the like pretentious academia element that I don't really care for all that much. But Matthew Claremont is proving to be a very compelling love interest, which is a good sign. So I feel like if nothing else, that is going to keep me going throughout this book. I have just got ready for the day because I spent the morning in my pajamas, and I say in my pajamas, all I've done is put a vest top on over the top of what I was wearing earlier, so I haven't really got changed all that much, but it's Sunday, so like anything goes. But I have 58 minutes left of I'm Glad My Mom Died now. Very early into the sprints, I'm gonna go and make lunch and feed Brie and Ham, so I'll pop my audio on for a little bit then, and then I also have it as a backup in case we roll any doubles. So yeah, that is my plan. I'm definitely going to finish this. This is a priority. If we get towards the end of the readathon and I'm still not done, I'll prioritize this a little bit more, and this one we're just going to see how far into it I get. Hopefully I don't finish this, move back to this, roll a double and have to start something else. That's our new worst case scenario, but how much of this I'm going to get read, we're just going to have to wait and see. The readathon has now ended, and I know I have not updated you for the entirety of today really, but in my defense, nothing actually noteworthy happened up until the last hour of the readathon, and by that point I was pretty much just prioritizing maximizing my reading time that I had left. Also in the middle of the afternoon I did have a little bit of a dip where I was feeling quite migraine-y. I had the kind of migraine where you don't have any pain yet, you just have like the pressure and the fuzz, I call it fuzziness, and it tends to like sit here, but it was making me like very light sensitive. I was struggling to read, and I was also feeling kind of drowsy, so it took me like an hour to kind of come round from that, and I actually had a 10-minute nap during that period. But in the last hour I did finish I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette McCurdy, and I still don't really know how I feel about this. I've rated it out of 4 now because, like I said, it's not really my place to critique how somebody tells their life story and also what it is that they choose to tell. I really liked it and found it interesting from a morbid fascination kind of perspective, and as somebody who has had a toxic parental environment, I definitely related to it in that, and it's also fascinating and eye-opening to see somebody else going through that and kind of living in that environment, and the way that when abuse happens when you're a child, you often don't realize the toxic behaviors and the effect that the toxic behaviors has on you until you're much older. And still now sometimes I'll have a moment of clarity where like I see the reality of a situation that happened when I was a kid that I kind of took at face value, which is wild. I'm not going to say that Jeanette McCurdy shouldn't have told her life story this way, because like I said, I'm not going to criticize how somebody else tells their life story, and obviously like I did enjoy the telling of it. If it was me, I don't feel like I would have been as cutthroat or brutal as she is in this memoir. It is very raw, it is very graphic. She talks about a lot of people in an unfavorable light, and in some places it is completely valid. Like something that I really appreciated in here and I feel is really important is that she shines a light on the toxic, problematic and abusive people within the industry and like behind the scenes of Nickelodeon, and it's super important that those people are outed so that they can't go on to then hurt other people. But there was like a lot of ex-boyfriends, some of them going through some shit, that weren't treated very well in this memoir. If this is the way that she chooses to process process her trauma, then so be it, good on her. Some parts throughout this, I was like, I don't feel like I need to hear this information right now. But I did have a morbid fascination and really enjoyed it, even though I'm removed from the whole Nickelodeon thing, because I never like watched iCarly or any of like the programs from like the same creator or on the same network. And I had no idea who Jeanette McCurdy was until I picked up this book. The other book that I was reading was, of course, A Discovery of Witches by Deborah Harkness, and I didn't make it as far as I wanted to in this. I made it 210 pages in, and this is the book that definitely suffered the most heavily from me not feeling great throughout the middle of the afternoon, because I do feel like some scenes in this book just go on a little bit. Like, I'll be reading a chapter and I'll feel like I've been in it for hours, and then I'll look and there's still like 20 pages to come in this same kind of scene. It is very pretentious. It's very pretentious, and I don't feel like I'm 100% vibing with that right now. At the minute, without spoilers, I'm reading a scene where they're like drinking centuries old bottles of wine. It's not coming across as like sophisticated and elegant. It's coming across as like crusty, dusty, pretentious to me personally. I didn't think going into this that the Oxford setting was going to be one that I was particularly fond of, because to me, institutions like Oxford speak more of elitism than they do like the romanticism of academia. So it's definitely coming across that way to me right now, and something that I just can't get behind here. Like, I can suspend my disbelief that there's witches and there's vampires and there's demons and they all exist in society, but I just cannot believe that somebody would get up in the morning, go outside, get in a boat and row as a form of exercise that isn't a sport. So like, she's not on a rowing team, she's not going to practice, she's not competing, she's not training for rowing. That's her exercise of choice. All I can say is the middle class live very, very differently. And I just keep coming back to that, because I just can't imagine a world in where that is a thing that people do as like a form of exercise. And I'm sure that people do. Like, I'm sure that's a real thing. It just seems really, really bizarre to me for some reason. The romance is moving a little bit quicker than I expected it to as well. I don't want to call it insta-love because it's not like that quick, but it is developing faster. I just kind of assumed, I guess, that this would be a slower burn across the entirety of at least this book, I guess, especially given the length of these books. But I'm enjoying the plot. I'm enjoying the world building. I really like the writing style, even though it does have a tendency to like overstay its welcome when we're talking about individual scenes. And I do really like the atmosphere in here, so I'm actually really excited to get back into it. It is very reminiscent of Twilight with the way that the relationship's developing, and also some of the scenes that we're getting in here. And it's also given like a sophisticated British Buffy the Vampire Slayer, with the guy being, I want to say like a mix between Angel and Wesley. So like Angel because he's a vampire, but Wesley because he's a massive nerd because he's a scientist. While I didn't get as far as I wanted to in here, I am over a quarter of the way through, which is good enough for me. So in total over the 24 hours, I've actually read 50. That wouldn't be impressive. I've read 500 pages. Would have been a little bit more if it wasn't a big chunky kinda slow or more slow paced book that came out as my final chance pick. But I'm very happy with my progress nonetheless, because like I said with this, even though it was my absolute worst case scenario, it's my next priority anyway. So having got through a quarter of this in this 24 hours is doing me a solid. So thank you guys for watching this vlog. I do hope you've enjoyed it. If you made it this far, thank you eternally as always to my patrons for being my patrons, for supporting me and for keeping me company during these readathons. I know a lot of people got a lot of things read this weekend. But yeah, aside from that guys, I do hope you've enjoyed this vlog if you've made it this far. If you have, please don't forget to like if you like it, and subscribe if you wanna. And I will see you guys for what I think is going to be a very long vlog very soon. Bye!
Oh, you bite your friend like chocolate. You say you will go where nobody knows, with guns hidden under our petticoats. We're never gonna quit it, no, we're never gonna quit it, no.